want to reiterate, this is very similar to the presentation I gave to our graduating students a few weeks ago. And I want to point out that it is a post-secondary pathways information session, which means that we will be covering and looking at all kinds of options for post-secondary, not just university and college. And I think that is one of my biggest takeaways for this evening, is to stress that we have so many options. In Ontario, we're so lucky because really students have all kinds of options, all kinds of pathways that they can pursue. So from college to apprenticeship, taking a gap year, going to the workplace, going to university, zigzagging through them, doing college first and then university, doing university and then college, or doing university and then apprenticeship. There's all kinds of pathways and routes possible. And I'm always telling students in my office that, as we adults know, we don't go through life in a straight line from A to B. There's many zigzags, and that's what life is about, right? It's about the zigzags, and that's when we learn and we build character and resilience, and we get to know ourselves. So, that this is it. This is what this is about. So it's not always going to be a straight line. And I want students to know this, because a lot of them find themselves very stressed out because they feel like right now, right this second, they have to figure out what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. Like, this is it. I have to make this really important decision. And I think for a 17-year-old, that's a pretty big decision to make. It's a lot of pressure. And I think that, as we adults know, we're quite different at 17 than we are at, let's say, 20 or 21 or 22 or 25. And so we need to give them the space and the information and the flexibility to sort of figure out what they're doing. But at the same time, we want to be practical and put them on the right path as much as possible. So I'm going to be going through some of our post-secondary pathways with you and give you as much information as possible and resources. And then we see where the chips fall, and the guidance department is always available for students to come. We've been quite busy with students who have been making appointments because, they want to talk about these options. They want to talk about sort of what's going on in their head. And so that's why we're there. So please do encourage your students to come and see us. Now, okay, so some important terms for us before we begin. I'm going to start with university and college first because it happens to be the most detailed. And so when we're talking about university, you're going to hear me refer to UAC a lot. UAC is the Ontario University Application Center. And it is sort of the headquarters for where all the applications go. It's located in Guelph, but it does not have anything to do with Guelph University, just so you know. It just happens to be in the city of Guelph. And so when students apply to Ontario universities, they do it through the UAC. So they do it through the central headquarters, and then the applications get distributed to the actual universities. We're also going to be talking about, for college, OCAS, or Ontario Colleges Application Center, so application service. So same thing, but for Ontario colleges, students apply through OCAS, and that's where they can get a lot of information, and that is the headquarters for all the college applications. We're going to be talking about transmission. I'll explain to you what that means. So that's the transmission of data. For universities, we refer to top 6 a lot. And so that's your top 6 grade 12 university or mixed level courses that students need. And that's the average that's calculated. We talk about supplementary applications for university programs. For colleges, we talk about math and language assessment, equal consideration dates, and then conditional offers for both. So I'll be explaining some of these terms in more detail as we go through. How to apply. So in terms of university, the website is basically, if you just Google UAC, but the official website is www.ouac.on.ca. Everything is there for you. So students have to click on ready to apply or apply now. They create an account. In order to create their account, they do need their OEN number. Then they have to add their email, not their TDSB email, because as soon as they graduate, that gets discontinued, that email address, the TDSB one. So I urge students to create a professional sounding, maybe Gmail account with their first name and last name, something that they're going to be using throughout their educational careers. So they will be needing to add that email. They need to then create a username and a password, and then they have to read and accept the terms and conditions, click create my account, and then they go ahead and choose the type of application. So it's pretty straightforward. And then there's instructions further from that. In terms of college applications, everything is done through OCAS, also called ontariocolleges.ca. And so again, you go on the website, click on apply and /login to create an account. And they choose either Canadian or international student, whatever applies, and click on apply now and create an account. So once the accounts are created, then students can log in and begin their application process. They're both of these application centers have an easy and user-friendly process. So the application itself, I feel, is not, I don't want students worrying about it or parents worrying about it. If you haven't seen them already, be assured that it's nothing complicated. Each of the platforms have a lot of really, really helpful information. So on the UAC site, some of the features that I urge students and parents to look at to help them navigate through the UAC are how-to videos, lots of really, really great videos. And the nice thing about the how-to videos is it's not a huge long video. There'll be snippets of just pieces that you might need. There's a list of key dates. There's a chat feature. So as students are on there, they can actually chat with somebody from the UAC if they have a question. So this is relatively new feature. There's also a hub that students can also get information from, and that's also new. There's links to Ontario universities. There's an application guide, and then information on financial aid. Similarly, for the Ontario colleges application, there are how to apply videos, important dates, information on application fees. Students can search the different programs available at different Ontario colleges. They can look at a list of the highly competitive programs, transcript information, admission requirements. There's information on skilled trades, which we're going to talk about later in the presentation, and information on offers of admission. And these are just sort of the highlights. There's much more, but really, really great resources. So even for grade 11 students, let's say, if we have any parents of grade 11 students, it's great to go ahead and take a look at the websites, even if they're not applying this year, because it's a great source of information. So deadlines to apply. There's a big difference here with the deadlines. So for university, the deadline is January the 15th. And for college, it's February the 1st. I would like to note that for both dates, but especially for the college one, this is sort of the equal consideration date. So this means that if you apply to an Ontario college before February 1st, then it's equal consideration with everybody that has applied. However, you can still apply after February 1st, except then it becomes a first come, first serve basis, and many of the programs may get filled up. It's actually the same with UAC on January 15th. That's the deadline. It doesn't mean that you can't apply afterwards. It just means that everybody who applied by then will get equal consideration, and the programs will start to fill up after that. We do recommend that you don't wait until the last moment. My guideline is always try and do it before or during the holidays. And that way you can take your time, not rush through it. And there's plenty of time to ask guidance counselors for help afterwards once they return back from the holidays. So transmission dates, I talked about the word transmission before. So one thing that students, I think, sometimes get confused about is how the universities and colleges get access to their transcript. So it's nothing that the student or parent has to do. This gets done automatically. So the information is transmitted automatically from our system in the TDSB to UAC and to OCAS. And there's specific predetermined dates that these happen on, and I've listed them for each university and college. I want you to take note that these are approximate dates. These are the dates that they aim for the transmissions to take place. It's not always exact, but give or take a couple of days, these are the dates. So on these dates, the information goes through. You will notice that November 9th and November the 6th have already happened. And what that means is the first set of data has gone through, and that's just demographic information about the applicants, their name, their address, and if they've completed any marks, any grade 12 courses so far, that goes through. But November 17th is the date. It happens to be the same for both university and college, where the semester 1 midterm marks go through. Okay. And then in February 15th for university, 16th for college, that's when semester 1 final marks go through. And then in April, that's when the midterm marks for semester 2 go through. So I want to stress that until the April semester 2 midterm marks go through, no student is getting rejected. So students may get early offers, but they cannot get rejected. Okay, so from November 17th up until the April date, students may get offers from universities and colleges on a rolling basis. If this happens earlier, then it's called an early admission. But most students find out after the semester 1 final marks, and then probably after the midterm marks for semester 2 as well. So this early admission is nothing that the students have to do separately. It's not something that they have to do specially for early admission. It happens automatically, depending on if the university or college wants to give them an early offer. So if their grade 11 marks are really, really strong, if their semester 1 marks are really strong, they may get an early offer. Most don't. Most universities will wait, especially competitive programs. They will wait until they get the midterm marks for semester 2. So as I mentioned, up until April 25th or 26th, no one is getting refused. Okay. After that point, then students may get offers of acceptance or maybe rejections as well. And then the July transmission is about making sure that the Ontario Secondary School Diploma has been completed, that all the requirements have been met, all the conditional requirements have been met. I'll talk about that in a second as well. And then there's 2 further transmission dates in August, just to ensure that if there were any upgrading or any summer school courses to be completed, those all get updated as well. So that's what the transmission of marks is about. And again, it's nothing that students have to do or parents have to do. It gets done automatically. How much does it cost, right? This is an important question. And if you haven't sat down with your graduate already to discuss this, I think that it's really, really important to sit down, because often I ask students, well, how are you paying for university? And they say, I don't know. Well, have you spoken to your parents about it? No. Is there an RESP plan? I don't know. Have your parents saved or put aside money for it? I don't know. So it's really, really important for students and parents to have this conversation, because students need to know. Maybe they need to get a part-time job. Maybe they're worrying for nothing and there's been money put aside. Maybe they need to apply to OSAP. Whatever this scenario may be, I think students need to be aware of this. So please do have that conversation with your grad. For university applications, the cost is $156 for 3 Ontario university program choices. Okay. Students are able to apply to additional program choices, and it's $50 each additional. And in addition to the $50 or $156, some programs have supplemental forms and packages that need to be filled out, and there will be an additional cost for the supplemental applications as well. The UAC websites will have a list of these the university fees. So really, for university, there is no limit to how many choices or programs the student wants to apply to. The only limit is, I guess, your bank account and what your budget is and how much you want to spend on university applications. For college, it's a little bit different. It's $125 for 5 Ontario College program choices, and there's a maximum of 3 programs per college. But that limit, it's at 5, so you cannot apply to more than 5 programs. It's not like the university where you can, for $50 you can add additional choices. For the colleges, there is no additional fee for the supplementary applications. Sometimes there are other fees for equipment or tools or something like that, but that would be on their list. So these are the differences, and as we know, the tuition for college tends to be a bit less as well, compared to university, but these are the costs for application. Just to review, before anybody goes off to college or university, they do need their OSSD, their high school diploma. So to review, students need to get a total of 30 credits, 18 compulsory and 12 elective courses. It's the student's responsibility to review their courses every year, make sure they're on top of their compulsory courses, make sure they know exactly what they have and what they need to get. Students also need to successfully complete the OSSLT, which is the grade 10 literacy test. If they don't pass it on their first try, they can try rewriting it. Or there is a course that's a credit course. It's called the OLC 401, and they are able to take that course in night school. We don't offer it at the school. That will fulfill that requirement as well. And then finally, it's the 40 hours of community involvement. I'm sorry, that's my mistake. It's not reduced. That was from previous year. So it is 40 hours. They had reduced it during COVID, but now it's back to 40. And it has to be in a not-for-profit environment. It has to be in a not-for-profit environment. Students can't go to Shoppers or Home Depot or EB Games or somewhere like that to volunteer. It has to be a community not-for-profit. So let's take a look at the Ontario University admission requirement. So this is specifically for universities. So as I mentioned, students need to have their diploma, their OSSD, and then there's something what we refer to as the top 6. So this is 6 grade 12 university or mixed level courses. Of course, students may have more, but the universities require 6. One of those 6 will always be ENG 4U1, the grade 12 university level English. So that is a mandatory prerequisite for all university programs. So the remaining 5 depend on the program that the student is applying to and what prerequisites they require. Some universities may say that there are no specific prerequisites other than English. So for example, if a student would like to study something like an anthropology or a political science, usually liberal arts types of courses, it's English and 5 other URM courses. On the other side of the spectrum, if a student wants to study something like engineering, they have 5 prerequisites that they require: English, and then advanced functions, calculus, chemistry, and physics. So that leaves one other one that can be any other grade 12 URM course. So it can be as many as 5 or it can be as little as 1, but in total, there have to be 6 grade 12 URM courses. It's up to the student to do their research to find out what the prerequisites are. Different universities do have different requirements for the same program. For example, if a student wants to study life science, one university may require advanced functions and calculus, while another university may say advanced functions or calculus. So there's a big difference there. One university may say any 2 of the 3 sciences, physics, biology, and chemistry, or another university may say it has to be bio and chem, or bio or chem. So again, depending on the wording, it really makes a difference on the calculation of the average of the top 6. Some programs have additional criteria, which I'm going to talk about in a second as well. There is also a language requirement for university programs, which I will also talk about. And so students really need to check the website and the OU Info website, which I'll talk about in a second, to check for these requirements. It's their responsibility. We're cutting it a bit close now, but there still is time for students to do their research and pick the program that they're looking for. So I mentioned additional criteria. Some programs require supplementary forms. And as I mentioned, there is an additional cost for this. They might require an audition or an interview or a portfolio. All of this information is listed on the program website. And just a note, different universities will have different requirements and due dates for the same program. So students must check the websites for the details. So again, one university may have a different deadline for a supplementary application versus another. So it's really up to the student to be super organized, perhaps have a calendar, whether it's, on their phone or a paper calendar, but really it's great to note all of these due dates and be really, really organized, because sometimes if students are applying to a lot of really competitive programs, it can be a lot with all this information. For college, Ontario college requirements, of course, you need your OSSD, your diploma. They look at the Ontario school transcript and they see all the marks from grade 9 to 12. For university, they only see grade 11 and grade 12 marks. And so the grade 11 marks for the universities, if they were strong, they can help a student. If they're not strong, they're not going to hold a student back. Okay. For college, the colleges will see all the grades from 9, 10, 11, and 12. There is no top 6 for any of the diploma or certificate programs. It really doesn't matter. Students, grade 12 courses can include all pathways, including university, mixed, college, or open courses. It doesn't really matter. Whereas for university, the top 6 has to be URM. Some programs may have some specific course requirements. For example, colleges are offering applied degrees now. And so for those applied degrees, they will look for the top 6 URM courses because it's a degree, even though it's offered at college. These degree programs are actually amazing. They're hands-on, smaller learning environment, much more student-friendly. And at the end, students end up with the same degree that they would in the university. So if your grad is maybe on the cusp, not sure if they're going to be able to have the competitive marks to get into a university program, but still have the potential. They're thinking about maybe, I don't know, like a business program or something like that. Please do consider applied degree programs at the colleges because they're fantastic. A lot of them have experiential learning opportunities such as co-op and internship. So very, very exciting opportunities. Some of the programs may need maths or sciences. And there will be a math or language assessment required, and it's not for admission, but it's for programming. So for example, in college, many of the programs require students to take a first-year English course. It's a reading and writing course. And so the language requirement allows the college to place the student in the appropriate level of that reading and writing course. But these are the requirements for Ontario colleges. So in terms of the language requirements for university, universities require students to complete a language proficiency test if they have been in a non-English instructional if they have been in an English instructional high school for less than 4 years. So if they attended a non-English instructional for any period of time in high school, then they have to write either a TOEFL or an IELTS. Duolingo is becoming popular, any of those. Every institution has its own due dates and scores that students need to be aware of. Some universities will have their own language proficiency tests. And so it's up to the student to see. Sometimes students are not in Canada for, let's say, grade 9, but wherever they were in a English language instruction school. So if that's the case, then they provide the details in their application, and the university will make the decision whether or not they have to write the test or not. So
Ms. Sagikian, it seems that you're muted. Did we lose her?
I don't. Hang on a second. Let's see.
Did we lose? I have her on screen, but it doesn't seem that she's speaking. Oh, we lost her.
Yeah, we lost her.
Okay.
Wait a moment, folks, and she'll join.
Oh, can you guys see me now?
Yep.
Here you.
We can hear you.
Am I sharing my screen?
No.
Okay, just one sec. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit.
Okay. Can you see me? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
and you
good
can
to
hear
go.
me okay? Yeah.
Yes, you're good.
Yes.
Good.
Should I go back to the previous screen?
I think you were fine. You began with the language proficiency, so I think you're going to be okay.
Okay. In terms of program information, there is tons and tons of information out there, truly. And students just have to go look. I know sometimes they take the easy route and they come and they ask us, which is fine. But really, we want them to get into the habit of becoming resourceful and learning where to find this information, where to access this information. And so for university, they can go to, there's a website called OU Info, or Ontario University's info.ca. And this is honestly my go-to because it's very current information. It's based on last year's admission averages. And so students can search for Ontario universities and or programs. It's like a search engine, and they can search by program name or university name. It tells them the prerequisites, the admission averages, if there's any notes regarding repeating courses or taking courses outside of day school, any additional admission criteria, residence information, scholarship and awards, all the contact information for liaison officers, and then also links to the program and university websites. So really lots and lots of information. And then of course they can go to the actual university program sites themselves. For college, everything is on ontariocolleges.ca. So not only is this where students go to apply, but this is also where they would go to search, and they can do a search by college or by program. And they can put in the keyword, and it will list all the college programs that offer whatever the keyword is. So students can search for the programs, different colleges, admission requirements, program descriptions, links to the colleges, residence information, scholarships, contact information, all that stuff. So really, really valuable. By the way, Susan, I'm going to send this to you at the end so that you can post it on the Parent Council website. So if parents are wondering, it will be posted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, some specific admission considerations for university that I want to talk about. I may have mentioned them already, but I want to talk about this because these tend to be our most popular questions that we get. So grade 11 marks. Students are quite concerned about grade 11 marks. And I don't want to say that grade 11 marks are not important. They're important because students have to get into the habit and develop the discipline and the routine and the study habits to succeed, to do well, to multitask. All of these things, contribute to having good marks. And so it's important. And it's important also because universities see the grade 11 marks. However, I do want to point out that while the universities see them and use these marks, if they are good, they will not reject students based on grade 11 marks. So I always tell students that if your grade 11 marks are good, they will work in your favor. But if they're not good, the universities will simply wait until they have your information from semester 2, and then they will offer you or not offer you, but they will wait. So they won't turn you away because of your grade 11 marks. Okay, I want to make this really, really clear because I have a lot of stressed students coming to see me about grade 11 marks. And again, I don't want to downplay it and say it's not important. Of course it is, but it's not everything, and it will not determine whether or not they get accepted. So I want to be super clear about that. Students also worry that, they can't take gym, let's say in grade 12, because it's an open course, or they love cooking, but they don't want to take cooking because it's it's a college level course. So as long as the student has the top 6 and the prerequisites required, the remaining courses, they don't matter and they will not influence the decision. So let's say a student has his or her top 6, including the prerequisites, everything is fine, but they happen to love the cooking course, they happen to love gym, or they took a co-op which is open. That is okay. That will not look bad. I'm saying that in quotation marks. There's nothing wrong with those courses. It will not interfere as long as they have their top 6. Okay. Also, let's say a student decided to take a course outside their area of expertise or outside of their strength, and it happened to be a grade 12 URM course. They didn't do that well, but it's not part of their top 6. That's okay too. The universities will not look outside of the top 6 and say, oh, look, this person tried, taking this course, but they didn't do well, so we're not going to let them in. They're just looking at the top 6 and the prerequisites. Okay, so that's also important information. I want to stress again about early acceptance. I can't tell you how many phone calls and how many anxious students I have about early acceptance. Okay, so once again, students do not have to do anything for early acceptance. It happens automatically by the university. If it happens, it's great because students find out a little bit earlier. It's a nice relief to know that they got in. However, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't say on their diploma, on their degree, that they had early acceptance on the first day of university. No one's going to care that they had early acceptance. Truly, it doesn't matter. It's just nice. Of course, it's nice. But it's not worth the stress that students go through to get early acceptance. It's not a status thing. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to set them apart. It's just nice to know a couple of months before, and they can sort of breathe easy. But it's not a reason for students to get really, really worked up over it. Okay. More and more applications are being considered on a rolling basis. So as I mentioned, as the marks are coming in, universities have different sort of times where they start looking at them, but no one gets rejected until the semester 2 marks go in for midterms. And then the last one, the hot topic is courses taken outside of day school. We as a public school, we don't endorse private schools. We don't encourage students taking courses in private school simply because they're not regulated the way that we are, and they don't have to hire OCT teachers the way that we do. So if a student takes a course in a private school, you're paying a lot of money. It's not a guarantee that you're getting an OCT certified teacher. It's not a guarantee what kind of a teacher you're going to get. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad teacher. I'm just saying that you simply don't know. And so it's a lot of the times they're online. It's just the quality of education is not the same as a course taken in class, in day school. However, that being said, only a couple universities will penalize against courses taken outside of day school that we know of, that they've admitted to. So U of T, for their Rotman and their engineering, they don't like it. They reserve the right to hold that against a student. U of T, Rotman, and engineering also don't like repeated courses. Waterloo, for their STEM courses, so that's all their technology and engineering and science and mathematics programs, they have said that they reserve the right to remove 5%, take off 5% from the mark if it's taken outside of day school. I think that if a student is generally getting good marks, they get high marks, and they take a course outside of school and they continue getting a high mark, that doesn't set off any red flags. However, if a student is used to getting, let's say, 75, and then they take it in private school and miraculously they get 95, then that may set off some alarm bells because it doesn't fit their pattern, right? So these are the things that set off alarm bells. So so far that we know of, these are the universities that have said that they look for that. Whether or not other universities do, they have not told us. And so they may, if they look on the transcript, they can see that there's a different code or a different school code for it. But whether or not they look or pay attention to it, we don't know. I ask every year when I go to the conference, and so far the answers are always the same. So so just for those two universities. So see, these are the sort of hot topics and questions that we get a lot. In terms of offers, all offers for college and university are conditional until the final grades that July transmission goes through. So even if a student gets an early admission, it's conditional because students have to maintain their marks. They have to get their diploma. That means they have to finish their community hours. They have to pass that literacy test. And they have to maintain the marks. Sometimes with a conditional offer, universities will say that students have to maintain a specific mark in a specific course, or they may say that students have to maintain a general average. So whatever the requirements are, they have to be maintained. At Earl Hague, we do not boost marks to meet conditional offers at the end. So we urge students to take these offers very seriously and to maintain those marks, because we have seen offers be rescinded at the end, and it's very sad, and we don't want to see that happen to any of our students. So we urge students to take these conditions very, very seriously. So they have to maintain their averages. And that's why the July transmission is very important, because then it just kind of solidifies everything. I can't stress this enough. If for whatever reason students are not meeting the conditions, the universities time and time again have told us the students must communicate with them. I know students get scared and they don't want to deal with it. And sometimes they think, oh, I just won't say anything and maybe they won't notice. They will notice. But time and again, the university or the liaison, our contact people tell us, please let them call us. If we know ahead of time, at least we can work something out with them. Possibly they can do summer school to upgrade, but we can come up with a plan. So, you know, things happen sometimes, life happens. And if for whatever reason the conditions are not met, then we urge students to please contact the university admissions office and let them know what's happened. It's the same thing with college conditional offers. They don't necessarily give specific marks or course averages to maintain, but students have to get their diploma. And if it was a program that required specific marks, then those have to be maintained. Colleges tend to be a bit more forgiving with summer school, and so some of them will allow summer school upgrades to happen. Universities, it's more rare, but colleges tend to be more forgiving with this. So in terms of so everything I've mentioned so far has been about Ontario universities or Ontario colleges, but sometimes students are interested in applying to a university outside of Ontario. And so if that's the case, then they have to look very, very carefully at the website to look at the Ontario requirements and Ontario deadlines. So for example, students applying to BC, they will have to look for the requirements for Ontario students. And so each university and each program will have its own deadlines and its own requirements. What we do ask is that, so once students apply to UAC, after they pay via email, they get sent a reference number, okay, an UAC reference number. So if a student is planning on applying to both Ontario and out of Ontario, then what they can do is apply to Ontario first. When they get that reference number, use that reference number to then apply to the outside of Ontario, because that will enable the transcripts to get transmitted to the out of Ontario province, and it just facilitates that. Students should let their guidance counselors know if they're applying to out of province, because sometimes we have to send them the transcripts directly. So they need to communicate with us for that. Same thing with out of Ontario colleges. There's no reference number, but they need to let the counselors know so we can forward the transcripts. For American universities, it's really cutting it close now, but I'm just going to go through the information. We already have had our American University information session and fair. It's a completely different process. Students must do their own research and check the deadlines. It's best to start the summer before grade 12, but if you currently have a student interested, there is still time, but it's cutting it really, really close. It's quite a lot of work for the counselor to put together the package for the student if it's going through the Common App. So we ask that students give the counselors time, because we write the reference letter. And, you know, we've had students ask us the day before, if that's the case, then we're not going to be able to write the best letter. And it might just be a standard letter. But if you give us time, then we'll have the chance to speak to the students and really put together a good letter of recommendation. So we really ask students to start that ahead of time. There is still time. Interested students can go to the collegeboard.org or the commonapp.org for more information. For financial aid, it's the same information for both college and university. There's lots of options. One option, of course, is scholarships. We are constantly advertising or sharing news about upcoming scholarship opportunities. We can do that through Guidance News, our Instagram, which is at Earl Haig Guidance, and announcements, as well as our Google Classroom that's new this year. And so students interested in scholarship opportunities at the school can speak to their guidance counselor. There's lots of information. Scholartree, which is the last one here, is really, really good. So is Scholarships Canada. And it's really worth it for students to take the time and create an account. When students create an account for these kinds of websites, they're asked a ton of questions. And the reason that so many questions are asked is because they create a profile for the student. And the more information they have, the more scholarships they're able to match them up with. So this is a really worthwhile exercise to do. Besides our school-based scholarships and the ones here, post-secondary institutions offer scholarships. So they might be entrance scholarships where you don't have to do an application. There's no nomination required. This information will be on the university and college websites. Then there's some major scholarships that are based on whether it's leadership experience or academics or extracurriculars or community involvement. And some of the big companies like TD Canada or Wendy's or Burger King, they have these kinds. Sometimes if you work for a big company, they may have a scholarship for children of employees. Sometimes there are scholarships based on a person's heritage or ethnicity or religious background. Sometimes if a parent has a disability, then the children qualify for a scholarship. If the applicant themselves have a disability, there's all kinds of criteria is what I'm saying. So it's really worth looking into it. In terms of financial aid, we are lucky that we have OSAP. OSAP is the Ontario Student Assistance Program, and it's a government based loan. It's both federal and provincial combined. Students have to qualify for it, and it's a combination of grant and loan, and students have to qualify. And I guess the more in need they are, then the higher the grant portion. In addition, and so for OSAP, it doesn't open until June, and students can't apply until they have actually accepted their offer, but they can go ahead now and create their account. And there is a feature that links to UAC, and so that OSAP can see what programs the student has applied to, and what ultimately they will choose, because that's how they determine the cost of the program and whether there's residents involved or whatever is involved. Universities also have financial aid offices. Every university and college has a financial aid office, and they offer bursaries. Bursary is free money that's given to students who were eligible for OSAP. So it could be $100, it could be $50, but every little bit counts. There's also bank loans that students can get, lines of credit, part-time job, summer, campus job, family, obviously. If the family can help out. So there's lots of different ways of getting financial aid. And so what I'm going to say that students should absolutely visit their financial aid department if there is a need the week before school starts, whether it's college or university. Check out the bursaries and just get to know the financial aid office and see what they can get in terms of help. Students with IEPs. So IEPs are individual education plans, and students who have extra learning supports have IEPs. That comes with a diagnosis or documentation. And when a student applies to a college or university, there is no place on the application that indicates whether or not a student has an IEP. So the college or university has no clue that a student may have need for accommodations. That's why it's really, really important for students to self-identify when they get to university or college. They have to go to their registrar's office or the student services department, and they have to self-identify and let them know that they have that they need supports and accommodations. Okay, I want to be extra clear. This is not a disadvantage. They will not hold this against the student. They will not refuse them or anything like that. This can only help students because it will give them access to accommodations, whether it's using technology or a quiet space or extra time or a scribe, whatever the accommodations might be. Okay, they will need a current psychoeducational assessment, usually within the last 3 years, but sometimes they will look at what there is. They will also look at a documentation or a letter from a physician. Keep in mind that IEPs are only they're Earl Hague documents, so they don't really mean anything for the university, but it is good to show them the IEP, I guess, because they can see the accommodations. And don't forget that each university and college has its own learning center, its own policies, its own support systems, so many different ways of supporting students. It's really important that the week before university starts or college starts, that students go and check out the facility, find out where these supports are, so that when they need them, they know exactly where to go. Very, very important. Okay, so now what, right? So what do? Now, many of our grads have already started this process, but in case they haven't, research. I say you always start with research. So check out the OU info, the Ontario colleges, university college websites, speak to the liaison officers. We have our fair coming up on the 22nd for non-GTA schools. So students can go and visit those booths, look at the view books we have in the guidance office, look at them online, visit the campuses, check out the open houses. It's really important to see the actual campus because, it's a 4-year investment, maybe at least. And it's really important for students to get a feel for where they're going and to see what they think about the campus, how far it is, whether they like a smaller campus, a bigger campus in the city, in a college town. It depends on what the students' preferences and needs are, right? So very, very important. If you haven't met with your guidance counselor, we suggest students to meet with their guidance counselors. We're happy to help, even to narrow down sort of options. Definitely speak to parent, guardian, caring adults. And I also say speak to people, in your life who have recently gone through the experience. I know that, as parents, our experiences are valuable. What we've gone through, our experiences, but it's also very helpful to speak to somebody who's currently been through the process because things change. And so, my recollection of university from when I went a long time ago is different from somebody who just graduated a few years ago. Things change, culture changes. And so I think if there's anybody within the community who is a recent graduate, that would be excellent to speak with them. I also ask that students check in with their counselor to make sure that they're on point for graduation, that they're not missing anything. look at the how-to videos for the undergraduate applications, read the FAQs, all that kind of stuff. So research, research, and more research. And then have a plan. So I know for students, some of the students, and again, I don't blame them. I think this is a big decision, but a lot of students feel that they have no idea what they want to do. And so what I ask them to do is not necessarily decide on a profession, but maybe just a direction, right? So is it technology? Is it something science related? Is it something language based? Is it something, service oriented? Think of a direction. And sometimes knowing what you don't like is also very valuable because it's process of elimination, right? So if someone is not a math person and they're deciding, no, I don't want anything with math, okay, that's great because it narrows things down. Or if someone is not, enjoying technology or computers, they can eliminate that as well. Or they don't want something language based. Whatever it is, it's, process of elimination also helps. But also it helps to think about the program versus the school. So is it that they really want to be at Queen's, or are they looking at a kinesiology program anywhere that they don't care where it is as long as it's kinesiology? So that's just an example. I ask students to be realistic. Of course, we all want the top programs. Wouldn't it be nice if all of our grads could get into the top prestigious competitive programs? But we know that that's not going to happen. We know that's not the right program for everybody. We know that not everyone is able to get into those programs, or even to finish those programs, to maintain the marks, or to maintain the stress, to be able to sort of make it through. That's why we have different universities, small ones, big ones, different programs. There's something that's for everybody, but we don't have to follow all of our friends. We don't have to follow what our parents did, what our brother did, what our neighbor did, what our cousin did. We have to be realistic and think about what is the right plan for each grad. I also tell them have a plan B and a plan C, because we don't want to, even though students may have really high marks, we don't want to take for granted that yes, for sure they're going to get in. So I always tell students, make sure you have a backup plan. So worst case scenario, you don't get into anything. Where is somewhere where you're sure you're going to get it? Right? So that's your safety net. And then just last minute details, like I mentioned, graduation requirements, specific program requirements, and non-academic requirements and deadlines. So that's the information for Ontario colleges and universities. But I do want to spend some time and talk about other post-secondary pathways. So something that's really quite in demand right now is apprenticeship pathway. So for those of you who don't know what apprenticeship is, it is learning a trade by doing. So instead of going to university or college, students enter the workforce in that trade. They have to be accepted by an apprentice master, and they learn the trade as they're doing it. And while they're doing it, there will be 8-week or whatever they require portions of school that they have to do for theory-based learning. So for example, a former student of ours is in an apprenticeship program through OYAP. I'll talk about OYAP in a second, at Humber for electrician. And he is currently doing his 8-week study session, like in-class portion at Humber, and doing really well, because even though he wasn't crazy about, high school and high school classes, this is something that he's quite interested in. It's hands-on. And so the learning part becomes really relevant for him, the classroom portion. And so the trades are in demand right now because we have many, many tradespeople retiring. And so there's lots of jobs coming up. The government of Ontario is offering free money for students going into the grades. Female students are getting double the amount because there's a lack of females in the trade industry, and so they're trying to encourage them to participate. The grants also pay for the gear And so for apprenticeship programs, not only are students not going into debt or paying for tuition for college or university, they are getting a grant from the government, and then they're making money as they learn. So the big thing about apprenticeships is that students earn an income while they're learning. Okay, so it's a fantastic program. We have something called OYAP, which is the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, through the TDSB. I've provided the current website here. And so it's a specialized program in high school, which allows students to explore apprenticeship and careers in the skilled trades. And so starting in either grade 11 or grade 12, students can enter the apprenticeship program directly. And if this is what they want to do, they are set, because it's a 5-year program. As I mentioned, they're getting paid. They can enter a union at the same time, get paid for overtime, get their benefits, and really they are set in a career in the trades. And this can include careers in, let's say, baking or hairstyling or construction or TTC or anything that is involves working with your hands and learning while you're doing. And in addition to that, what happens is after once the student becomes a master, after their 5 years, they work, they can go into business for themselves, they can go into consulting, and then they can also go into management, because let's say they don't want to be doing construction forever, but they want to get into maybe management or consulting or something like that. So there's lots of different opportunities to try different things within the trade. And so I can't stress enough what a good opportunity this is for the students who are interested, because let's face it, not everyone is going to enjoy sitting in a classroom listening to a lecture for 3 hours. And because we're all different, we all learn differently. Some people learn by listening, some people learn by doing and using their hands. And so this might be a fantastic opportunity for some of our students. If students are interested in this program, please have them come and see their guidance counselor. Mr. Panagopoulos is our resident expert with OYAP, but any of the guidance counselors can help with information on OYAP. And then we also have the workplace pathway, because some students like to take maybe a year off, do a gap year, start working, maybe save some money, or just kind of figure out who they are and what they want to do. And this is also a good idea for some people, because not everyone is ready to jump into, an expensive 4-year program right after they graduate. And so they could do it through co-op, they can do volunteering, they can take a gap year, they can go abroad to work, or just get, sometimes getting a job at, at Metro, being a cashier, nothing like motivation, right? To say, okay, maybe this isn't something that I want to do forever, and this is going to motivate me to go and search and see what I want to do. Or maybe, yeah, this is something that I really like. I like working. I like, working with my hands and dealing with people. And this is the kind of thing I want. So I'm going to pursue this kind of a pathway. But, it's life experience. And so it's valuable. It's always valuable. So there's a bunch of websites here that can help with just Ontario Skills Passport, Employment Ontario, things like that. And so I end by saying today I choose to stay calm, because students get into a panic. It's a big decision. Parents get into a panic. I will need somebody to remind me of this next year when my daughter is going to graduate and apply. And so I know it's a big deal. I know that there's a lot hanging on this. However, we do need to stay calm and know that it all works out somehow. Students just need to experience it and be open to the different opportunities that we are lucky enough in Ontario to have, and to see what comes for them, and also to plan according to what they love, what their strengths are, what their passions are, where their curiosity leads them. But it does work out. And again, you'll have to remind me of this next year, but I will tell you that it works out and they will be okay. and they will be smiling in June when they graduate, and all of this will be behind them. So that is it for the presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I know there's been questions in the chat. Let's see where we are.
I think Darren's kept up pretty close to getting them all answered for the ones that we've seen.
Fantastic. Is there anyone who has a question they'd like a general question that I can answer that might be beneficial to everyone?
I think the last question was not answered. So the last question was, can students still apply for university or college after a 1-year gap?
Absolutely. Yep, he's just answering it. Absolutely they can. So there's actually opportunities for students who take a couple of years off and they can go back as mature students. Sometimes that's a good pathway for some students, but let's say students just want to take a gap year, they can apply. Now for the UAC, when students are applying straight from high school, when students answer a series of questions, it leads them to the 101 application. But when a student has taken a year off, then the answers to the questions will lead them to a 105 application. So that's the only difference. But yes, absolutely, they can apply whenever they want to after they graduate. Please show the last page of the presentation with the websites. I'm going to be posting that. We're going to be posting that. So I can share again. Just give me 1 sec. There we go. There we go. Any other questions? I don't know if there's any hands up. I can't see my screen.
No, there's no
No?
hand.
Okay. Okay, so Susan, I will be emailing this to you shortly, and if you'd like to post it, we will also be posting it through guidance. And as always, please feel free to reach out to guidance counselors, both parents and students. If you have any questions, I know, especially for newcomers, I know this is a daunting process. It's very different from anything that maybe you experienced when you went through it, or perhaps you've never been through it. I know that it can be a lot, so that's why we're here to help. Please reach out and let us know if we can help you sort any of this out. So I will say thank you, and I'll just be here if there are any more questions on the chats. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vivian. We really appreciate all the information. And yes, it can feel a little overwhelming, but we will have your presentation and this recording will be made available to the parent community. So are there any other questions that we should be discussing at this point? Susan, do you see anything in the chat?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Oh,
Just
there's a
wondering
chat.
if anybody's, oh, there